Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here. Oh, no, it's not working at all. I don't even see any audio at all right now. Oh, my gosh. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. It just went down the hill. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, this isn't pretty. It's not working. Sorry guys, something's happened at just the last minute here, of course, and it's not working. It was working just fine moments ago. Man, I don't know. It's frustrating, that's all I know for sure. Oh, it is working? Well, I'm seeing nothing on my screen indicating that it's working. Okay, if you can hear me, I'm just going to pretend like it's working because every indicator on my screen is off. I can't, it's just ridiculous. Well, thank you, Tanya, for telling me you can hear me. I'm just going to pretend like it's okay. It's scary to pretend that because I see usually you see meters moving and things and I see nothing. And I hear nothing on my side. There's no sound coming back at me whenever I played my intro. There's no sound coming back. It's just not easy being me. It's very frustrating. Sorry about that. Okay, so everybody says they can hear me. All right, well, we're going to pretend like nothing's wrong. That's hard to do, though, when you just know it's supposed to be doing all these other things. Well, I guess I'll catch you up on what these instruments look like. And I'll start with the classical instrument. If you've been following my vlog, I showed this one in the vlog yesterday. And this one, I had to do a neck reset. I did the neck reset day before yesterday, and I set it up yesterday. So it's a little bit out of tune already. These nylon strings stretch so fast. So anyway, it's working good. The action's really good on it. It's just about like a standard steel string guitar. So the lady that sent this to me, she should be happy because I'm not charging her for the work I did on this. I'm just going to send it back to her, and all I'm going to do is ask her to pay the shipping. I kept this entirely too long. You can refer to the video from the vlog from yesterday to get more detail, but anyway, I'm not going to talk about that much more. Just set it here in my stand if it'll stay there and not fall over. That would be my luck. The mandolin, the broken neck mandolin, is completely finished. So it's finished. You can see there where the neck was broken, and I put the scarf joints in there. Yeah, I basically cut it in half right here at the nut. Cut a long scarf joint there, a long scarf joint there, put it back together, got the angles right, all that. I made myself a template before I cut it apart so I could get the angles back to where it needed to be. Anyway, it's a nice little mandolin. I'm thinking Dutch is going to be pretty happy with it. It's probably the first time in a long time that he's got he can have some confidence that it should stay together. I don't think it'll ever break again. I really don't. That maple through there is way stronger, exponentially stronger than the mahogany through there would have been. Plus the fact that I added this extra here because of the truss rod cutout and all that. This helps with that and gives you more strength. And it looks nice too, you know, so it doesn't look bad either. So that, you know, I think overall that's a winner. So he should be happy. In terms of the banjo, if you saw yesterday's vlog that I'm working on, it's actually a Mandolin. It's a mandolin banjo. I didn't make any changes that would make any sense to show you. I did a lot of hardware changes, but I'm ready to put it together now, or at least put the drum part of it together, the banjo head part, if you will. I'm ready to put that back together. I think it should go together now without any big issues. And then I'll have to fit the neck and all that and then set it up. But there's nothing new to show you, so I'm not even going to bother with that one. You can refer to the video from yesterday, the vlog from yesterday, if you want to see that banjolin. Let's see here. By the way, I might mention a couple of things just off the cuff here. I don't have a script this morning. I don't have an outline to follow. I was too busy trying to get the sound and all that junk to work. I mean, just yesterday or whatever, I tested it. It was working just fine. Today, it is not working, at least not in the shop here. I guess it is working for you. Okay, a couple things off the cuff. Number one, it's come to my attention through a couple of different ways that you're getting a lot of spam on the comments and things. Just rest assured, if I'm talking to you, you will see my full little logo there, and you will see that it's from Rosa String Works. You know, if you see anything else that even looks vaguely suspicious, just ignore it. Or if you really think it could be real and you're still not sure, well then send me an email, rosastringworks@gmail.com. But there's a lot of crud going on out there nowadays. Even in the live stream, like the other night that we did last Thursday night, we did that live show, and there was some spam coming up in the comments. So you just have to either ignore that stuff, or if you have some means of getting rid of it, feel free. I have no problem with that. But I don't have any control over it that I know of, at least none that I'm aware of. The other thing I want to mention, and this is way off the cuff, but I put out a video on how to relieve kidney stone problems, how to get rid of your kidney stones or make them pass very quickly. And if you're suffering from kidney stones, I would highly recommend you go back and look at that video. You just type in RSW kidney stones. You'll probably find it without any trouble at all. I came up with a little exercise or just a position that you get into, and your kidney stone will pass almost instantly. I just happened on it accidentally. I've done it at least 8 or 10 times now, and it's worked every single time. And I've heard from at least a half dozen people that said they've done it, and it's worked for them as well. So if you are suffering from kidney stones, I don't think it'll hurt you to try what I'm doing there, but just look up that video, RSW kidney stones, and you'll find it, I'm sure. I don't remember the number of the video, or I would tell you. That just came off the top of my head here, and I just thought I'd mention it because if you've ever suffered from kidney stones, you'll thank me, you'll bless me if you can get rid of them quicker. Trust me, they hurt really, really bad. Looks like there's a lot of people on here, 90 viewers so far. Okay, I guess I'm ready to get into the meat of what I was going to talk about. Someone asked in a comment, you know, if I could demonstrate how I cut the rosette, you know, for the guitar. Now, I don't really think they were talking about actually making the rosette, although I could have misunderstood, and maybe that's what they were talking about. I typically either just buy a rosette and put it in there, or buy the pieces to to make a rosette out of and put it in there, or I cut out my own rosette parts with my laser cutter. So the actual rosette itself, I'm not really going to talk about today. You know, they come in any wide variety of options. I mean, you can just get little rings, you can get flowers, you can get all kinds of little blocks glued together. You can just do, your imagination is the only thing that limits you on the kind of rosette. But when it comes to cutting the slot into your guitar top, that's what I'm going to talk about today. I use about 3 different options here or whatever. I wouldn't even call them different methods, because there's really just 2 different methods and several options within those. I'm going to talk about the old school way first, and I'm going to tell you, don't do this. But if you have to do it, if it's the only option you got, well, then I understand. But I don't recommend this first option. The first option is you use something like this on a drill press. And this, you mark your center hole where your sound hole is going to be. In your flat top, you mark where you want the very center of your sound hole to be, and you drill through that center with this. And then this out here, this cutter can be adjusted in and out, and this will cut the rings for your sound board. A lot of people do this. I cut at least probably a half a dozen this way. But I don't ever do this anymore. This is just way too risky. It's too scary. This thing is the doctor of death. It will cut your fingers off, rip your hands off. It's just scary. I don't like to see that thing swinging around like that. So, I mean, that is an option. I'm just throwing it out there, but I'm not going to show you how to do it, and I'm really going to tell you, don't do this unless this is the only possibility you have. And I don't know how that... Wow, my sound just worked on that. And it worked really loud, so I'm going to turn it down. Oh my gosh, that was loud. Thank you, Frazzle Guitars. Thank you for everything you do. It says, following you since day one. You're the reason I went to luthier and wanted to become one. Well, glad to hear that. It's nice to hear. I do hear quite often that I've inspired something like that, and I really do think that's cool. That's probably my crowning glory right there, so thank you very much. The method that I use now is, I've got a couple of different things. I made this board back when I was doing the thing I told you not to do. I had to find a way to hold the work much more steady. It turns out I can use this in the new way I do it also. But what I did was, this round thing here fits my drill press table, so I could clamp this to my drill press table really solid. And then the center here, which was this center at the time, I don't use that center anymore, but that's where the center of this drill would go. And then and you can even see right there that it kind of matches this outer little circle right there. Anyway, I don't do this anymore, but I made this so that I could clamp my guitar to this, like the waist of the guitar. I could put a clamp here and clamp, so I could clamp the top to this board. I could clamp this to my drill press, and everything was solid. It wouldn't move on me, because that's where you really have a problem. So I made this for this originally. Again, I want to be clear, I don't use this at all anymore. Okay, so then I had the idea, well, now that I want to do it with a router, so I just drilled a small hole here, and I put this pin in, which is basically just an old drill bit that broke off, and I just super glued it right there in the hole, and it can't move. It fits the hole very snugly, first of all. You almost have to drive it in, and I CA glued it in there to boot, just so it wouldn't move. And then I have 2 options now to work with this. This Proxone router, it came with an option for cutting circles already, and it had a little needle right here, a little skinny, I can't really think of any better term, like a needle sticking out, a little spike that you would stab in and then you would swing it around that little needle. Well, the problem with that little needle idea, I mean, that kind of works if you're just doing, you know, I don't know, furniture or something that's needs to be really close but doesn't have to be perfect, because perfect is different than close. And that needle just gets you close, in my opinion. The problem with it is it will, as you spin this around, that needle can wallow a little bit. It can even lift out of the wood. There's all kinds of problems with the needle idea. So I got rid of the needle and I drilled this out to the same size as this little pin right here. So if you look at mine now, it's got a hole drilled there instead of the little needle pin thing. And then I can set this right down on top of here, like that. And it's as secure as it can possibly be. It can't move at all, because it's the same exact size hole. You don't get any movement out of it, and you can spin right around, and it just works perfect. Now, that's my Proxon. Now, if you don't have a Proxon and you have a Dremel, here's the option that I have for my Dremel. And this was a StewMac setup. I took their bass off because I wasn't crazy about their bass, to be perfectly honest with you. I made my own bass, and in addition to that, on the back of the bass here, I mounted this little deal, just a couple of screws and things, and it screws into the plastic. Now, granted, this plastic, you could strip the threads, so you have to be a little bit careful with that, and you don't try to go Hercules on it, you know. You just, when you get in plastic, when you're using threads, when you get snug, you stop, and that's where I'm at. And it holds really solid, so I don't have any problem with that. And then this middle pin adjusts me in and out. And then I have all these holes in here. So I can, I've got pretty much infinite adjustment on this. And so, like, if I'm on the outer hole, then I can also fine adjust it right here, see? So this really works well. And, I had to machine that and had to make that, but I'll just show it up close there so you can see what I did. Really, all I did was take a block of aluminum and cut a little slot out of it, milled a little slot out of it there with my little milling machine, and then just made that little bar to fit that slot really well. And then I can just tighten this middle screw to, tighten it down. And again, it works with this thing as well. Now, I don't use this that often anymore since I've got the Proxon. I kind of dedicate the Proxon to these kinds of tasks. I mostly use my Dremel for handheld type routing and stuff. I do use it, as you've seen me, for the cutting slots in bridges. I use this to cut the slots in bridges, but I use the base that was made by the fellow. Every day I lose more about this. I can't remember the fellow's name. I'm so terribly sorry. But he is such a nice fellow that made this for me. And it even has a place to plug in a light, and then the light shines down there. So this thing's perfect for my normal kinds of routing that I want to do, where I'm doing super detail and I'm doing it by hand and I need a lot of light. But in a case like routing out these rosette spaces, you don't really need light or anything, because you just basically got to get it set where you want it, and then you just spin it around. It's very simple. Now, you will have to make fine adjustments sometimes, because your cutter bit may not be the size that you need. In other words, you're better off using a smaller cutter and then moving this thing microscopically as you need to, in or out, to widen the slot or whatever. And this one works very similar to the one I made. In other words, you got these two screws right here that you can tighten, and you can pull this in and out. So it's pretty much got infinite adjustment also. Now, this came with really long bars here. I mean, they stuck out like this far. I could just cut them off because I didn't have any need for that. And, I'm only doing what I'm doing. I'm not, going to use this thing for building furniture or something down the road. That's not what I do. So that's why I just got rid of what I didn't need there. And I just use this for my rosettes. It works really good. Let's see, what else? I think that's most of it. Okay. There are a couple more little things. by the way, this was just a simulation. This is you could pretend this is your guitar top. And of course you have to you have to have that hole drilled in your guitar top in the place you want your sound hole, right in the dead center of your sound hole, kind of like that. And then you slide, so you put your guitar top on here first, and then of course that's when you put your router on here and route the guitar top, just to be clear in case somebody was confused. Anyway, the only other thing I wanted to mention is it's not a bad idea, and you're going to need these for other things anyway, so it's not a bad idea to have some little tiny chisels that you can use for working in slots like this. Like, you know, if you're cutting a really skinny, narrow slot, you may need a little tool like this to get in there and clean out stuff that gets in the slot, you know, in the bottom of the slot. There'll be fuzzies, little things like that. And when you're trying to fit something absolutely airtight in there, even a little fuzzy thing on you know, from the wood will be in your way. And so you can make a little tool like this. Now this one's very helpful for that. I don't know if this camera is smart enough to get that close, but you can see it. It's kind of got a little hooked bill on it. And that little hook, you can pull it towards you and rip out little things that are in there in your way. This is just a pointed little skinny point that I can run down in there and do things. And then this one's got a little bevel point on it. And so I use all these kinds of little handmade tools. And then you wonder, well, where did you get these things? Well, these are just little cheap chisel things that I just reground to suit my needs, because they're of almost no value anyway. You pay like maybe $8 or $10 for a set of them, you know, really cheap stuff. But you can use them for these kinds of purposes. And I think that's about it. I think that covers just about everything I was going to talk about on the rosettes. If anybody has any questions about any of that stuff, feel free to show them out here, or, you know, type them out here, and then I'll try to answer them if I can. I'm going to scroll up to see if there's any questions that I've missed so far. I'm still amazed that you can hear me because, like I said, I see nothing moving on my screen at all. Typically, I see these little things moving back and forth, and it just gives me a creepy feeling. Cleveland Joe, how much tone am I killing by adding a second pickguard to my acoustic? Well, let me just tell you a little short story on this. There's a guy in the local area here who's a pretty decent musician and an okay singer, but he just does stuff to instruments like it's just unbelievable. And he brought me I don't know, it was at least a D28. It might have been a 35, I can't remember. But it was a nice guitar, Martin guitar, you know. And he asked me, he showed it to me, and he said, can you fix this little crack right here? And you know, it was on the seam, right down the center seam, you know. And I said, yeah, I can fix that, no problem. Just bring it to the shop. Well, when he brings it to the shop, now instead of just a little fine line crack, it's got a crack wide enough to put a piece of inlay in. I mean, it's like a 1/16 of an inch wide now. I said, what happened to it? I said, it was just a little fine crack before. Oh, I just cut that out so you could get glue in there. Okay, thanks for helping. You know, that's the kind of fellow we're dealing with here. Now, he had a really nice Martin. I can't remember what it was, an older one. And he wanted me to make it look like, I don't know, I forget who it was now, like Waylon Jennings' guitar with the big pick guards on both sides. And he was willing to pay me anything I wanted to do that. And I said, there ain't no way. I said, this boy ain't doing that. And he's going, well, that's what I want. I said, well, you'll have to find somebody else to do it, because I'm not doing it. So that's a long way around about asking your question, but I wouldn't do it if I was you. Now, I mean, it depends on the instrument. If it's a cheap instrument, but if it's a high-end instrument, I wouldn't do it. You know, you're just going to kill your value in my opinion, you kill your looks too. I think they just look horrible. But that's just a personal preference, I guess. I mean, some people must probably think those look great, but for me, I wouldn't do it. It's like putting a blanket on top of your instrument. There's no reason to do it. Now, if you're absolutely a flailer and you're just tearing it up, well, then okay, maybe there is a reason to do it then. But if you're just doing it for looks or something like that, and if it's a high-end instrument, no, I would not do it at all. You can't pay me enough money to get me to do it either on a high-end instrument. There's just no way I'll do it. So I hope that answers your question and I don't mean to embarrass you. I hope that isn't the way you took it. I don't mean it as a put down or anything. I just explaining that these kinds of things come up, and boy, I just won't do those kinds of things. Because it just doesn't help your sound, and it doesn't help the looks either, I don't think. And now, if it's a cheap instrument, who cares? If it's a $150 guitar, do whatever you want to do to it. It's no big deal. But it's not going to help your sound, I'll just tell you that. Is the rental retreat available Labor Day weekend? And off the top of my head, I have no idea, but I do already know that we've already rented it for more than 20 some days in September, and probably more than that now already. That was several days ago. I knew that we had already had 22 nights rented. That has gone crazy since we put it on the Airbnb, and the feedback has been incredibly good, so that's perpetuating more people staying here, and it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. In fact, just on a side note there, we are also trying to get Caleb's old quarters where he was living. It's a separate little apartment. It is attached to the end of our house, but there's a road between it. So, you can't walk from one building to the other with, there's doors and things. So it's not like, it's not part of the house in the strictest sense. It just has a roof over it. But anyway, that apartment, it's like an efficiency apartment. It's got one large room. It's got a small bathroom and a small kitchen. And we're fixing that up presently to perhaps use that for the instrument, for the people that want to come and stay rather inexpensively. You could use that option. But right now, I couldn't tell you if that's rented or not without going online and checking it out. But more than likely, it is probably rented for that weekend. But I can't say for sure. It might not be. Anyway, let's see. The next question is Zappa1PNT says, Jerry, if you ever feel the need, your Dremel tool will fit in the Proxon bass. Yeah, maybe. I'm not so sure about that. I don't think this one will. I'll check it. I think I've checked this once before, but you might be right. I just don't remember. See, this bass screws on for one thing. This one fits on like this. See, this router is really big. You can fit it under sideways like that, and it will go. Will it tighten down enough? It might. I don't know. I don't feel too comfortable with that option. Yeah, it does actually work. You're right. It does work. But it's pretty tight in there. I don't have the need because I've got two other basses for this, so there's really not much reason to do it. But yeah, that makes sense. I think I did try that once before. But anyway, yeah, I don't really have the need. But I do, again, just love this bass that was made for me by that fellow. And man, I absolutely love this thing. That having the light in it is like killer. It's just killer. Yeah, especially when you're trying to get down to the super thousandth of an inch and trying to cut one of those slots in a saddle, a saddle slot and a bridge. Oh my goodness. Peter Lubbock, Laubach, Laubach. Oh, he says it's buffering on my side. Well, I can't help you with that anyways, Peter. Sorry. Every once in a while it's going to buffer. It's just the way it is. Mike Saba, Jerry, could you explain how you... I'm not sure I understand what he's saying there. Mike Saba says, could you explain how you sting slotted headstocks? String slotted? Sting slotted? String slotted? Oh, how I string a slotted peghead? If you're talking about putting strings on something like this, I can give you a verbal explanation. I can't show it to you right now because I've got this one strung. But what I do is I go from the top and I poke it through, and I only leave, I actually roll quite a bit up on these kinds of headstocks. Instead of trying to be real efficient, I typically put more turnings on these than I do on the other style. And what I do though is I start it through and I start the rolling toward the middle. In other words, I'll make 1.5 to 2 full turns moving the string toward the middle. Then I bring the string back over those ones that I've already wound, and then the rest of the winding goes towards the outside. And as you can see there, all these strings are wound to the outside. Like if you look at this one specifically, because it's black, you can see it, I think. And it's wound to the outside. All of those are wound to the outside. So I start winding toward the middle, but then I cross back over and wind to the outside. And that locks it in. And that's the reason I do that. Down here, I use the traditional method of the twisting. I'm not going to try to even explain that because it's a little complicated, but I do the traditional method down here. This, I don't know if anybody else does it this way or not. That's just how I do it. I never learned it from anyone else, but it works really well. I typically use a power tightener, like either a electric screwdriver type thing or something with that to tighten those up, because you're doing a lot of winding on these when you do it that way. The other reason I like to put more winds on a classical like that is because those nylon strings stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch, and you want to spread that stress out on that winder. If you only had just a short amount and you're pulling right on that sharp hole where, like on that bend, yeah, you could break it really easy, those nylon strings. So I like to spread that stress out by putting a lot of winds on there. I do that intentionally. Okay. Bianca just subscribed. Thank you, Bianca. Well, at least I'm getting sound on one thing. That's so weird. Why that makes a sound and nothing else does. That just makes no sense. Okay. It's just my typical burdens that I bear every day here. It's stuff you just can't figure out. It just makes no sense. Okay. Michael 2X says, the small apartment would work for me, just me and Mom Martin, HD28, for you to set up. Yeah, the small apartment, my wife is actually doing 99.9% of that. In fact, I haven't done really anything yet. I just minor couple things I helped her with. But she's doing all that, and I would say it'll be ready before very long. And it's nice. It's nothing, it's nothing super fancy, but I would say it's at least as nice as your average run-of-the-mill type motel. It's at least that nice, and maybe a little nicer than that even. The actual rental retreat is considerably nicer than that, in my opinion. Okay. Hopefully that was the question you were asking there about the slotted peghead, and I hope that made sense to you guys. Moving on, Paul Walton says, how would you cut the slots for a slotted headstock? Well, I've done it. Trying to remember how I did it. To be truthful, I don't know that I remember. I probably just used a jigsaw. I really don't remember. I have done it. It's been a while. Mostly where I had to repair one, that type of thing. I did have my cousin, in fact, one time had a Martin classical. It was like a D28, but it was a classical version of that. The body was pretty much the same size and shape. Anyway, he wanted me to convert it to a regular headstock. So in that case, I did the exact opposite. I actually filled it and then put a veneer over it and made it look as close to a Martin headstock as possible. And it turned out really nice. So, and I think he still has that guitar. Dan Andrews, thank you so much for that super chat. I really do appreciate that. I really, really do appreciate it. In fact, I can't say enough how much I appreciate all you guys. You guys have done as much for me as I've done for you by, with the nice comments and the helpful attitudes and everything, and just showing up to be here today. Like there's 126 of you showing up here today. So I really do appreciate that. It looks like we're out of questions there. Yeah, somebody says it was loud and clear, Travis the Fixer. I guess I feel like Jerry the Fixer. That's about all I do around here, I can tell you that. I can't even tell you how many things I fixed yesterday. I say I don't help the wife all that much on that, but every few minutes she's bringing something that I got to work on or fix or something. Usually I just have to stop what I'm doing and fix it. Lloyd asks what the brand name of this. The brand name of it is Cheap. I'm kidding. I'm sorry. I don't mean to put it down, but it's an inexpensive classical guitar. It's Ibanez Salvador. I looked them up, and they look to be selling for in the neighborhood of $150. So they're not expensive at all. Quite honestly, it wasn't worth her shipping it here and me return shipping it back to her. That's my opinion. But she was such a syrupy, nice, sweet lady when I talked to her. I mean, like she got to be the kindest person on the earth. And my conscience started bothering me because I was just going to ship it back because I don't work on classicals. Let's just be clear. I do not work on classicals. But I fixed this one for her anyway, and I didn't even charge her. All I'm charging her is the shipping back and forth. And I did completely take the neck out of here. And somebody had already, I'll show you here, somebody had already drilled it and put pins in here. That was before me, so I had to drill those out, get the neck out of here because it's a dovetail, reset it, fill it up with other wood so it couldn't move, put the pins back in it, and then I did a fret job and did all that good stuff, and and I put a saddle in here, and I had to cut a new slot because the slot was really boogered up on this thing. I did way more work than what this guitar is worth if you go by my hourly rate. Way more work. But, what do you do? My conscience was bothering me of sending it back without helping the poor lady. I don't know if any of the rest of you have this problem, but I seriously do have a problem. I really do. I'm not making this up, and I'm not looking for somebody to say, "Oh, it's okay, Jerry," or I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not looking for, a pat on the back. But I really have a trouble saying no to anybody on anything. If you come to me and said, "Would you help me clean my septic tank?" I'd say, "Yeah. What time you want me over there?" I just can't say no to people. So, I was going to call her and tell her, "Look, lady, I'm just sending this back. You shouldn't have sent it here," because she sent it unsolicited. I did not know it was coming. But when I talked to her, you could just instantly tell she was just the sweetest person on the planet. So I thought, So I kept it another several months. It's been sitting here even several months since I talked to her. And anyway, I fixed it. So it's gonna be shipped out hopefully yet today. Whew. It's just not easy being me. Edward Smith. Thank you so much for that super chat. I really, really appreciate it, Edwin. Looking for questions here. Travis, the fixer, how about a little guitar picking on the classical guitar? If you're looking for me to whip up on it like, I can't think of the classical guitarist's name now, I had it a minute ago, I can't do that. What is the name? Escoban or something like that? Like the guy on those infomercials? I can't play a classical guitar any better than I can play a regular guitar. It's way out of tune already. These nylon strings, I'm not making this up. You tune it, you get all the way across it, and you think it's up to pitch, you have to go back through it again. You go back through it again, and you go back through it again. And you just keep going back through it. Like you can go back, I bet you could tune it 10, 12 times in a row, and you'll still be tuning this thing until these strings stretch out. And so that's where we're at with this thing. There's no point in me trying to play it. I would if I could, but I can't play a guitar anyway worth a hoot. So, I mean, I'm 3 chords at best. So thanks for asking, but I think I'm gonna have to pass. These digital calipers, someone just asked about there, Rick Curtis. I really, really like this brand. This brand is eye gauging. Put it up close where you can see it. It says eye gauging. Eye gauging makes good quality tools. They're not in the same ballpark as Mitutoyo or Starrett or Brown & Sharp. They're not in that ballpark, but they're like in the next level below it. So like they're the minor league, but these are way better than the cheap junk you just buy off the shelf like at your hardware store. Like the general version of this. The general version of this just sucks batteries left and right. The batteries last a long time. They work great. I really can't say enough good things about them. If I could see a model number on this, this is IP54. That's what it says, IP54. So I do recommend this one highly. The eye gauging version. Now this does inches, it does millimeters, and it does fractions. So you can just push the button and switch between the 3. And I have found it to be very highly accurate and very good. I have 2 sets of these and then one more set of another one that's very similar. But the eye gauging is the brand I really prefer. I don't know if it matters too, but this also says Easy Cal right here. Easy Cal. Letter E, letter Z, and then Cal, C-A-L. So anyway, that's all I know about that. I probably should look that up and put that on my tools I use on my website, on my page. In fact, I'll try to remember to do that after we're done here this morning. Well, we've still got about 15 minutes or so. Does anyone else have questions? Let's see. Rude Jansen, is there coming also a book about setup and maintenance on the guitar? Not a book, just video. It'll all be video. I don't see all that much future in the book thing. I mean, I guess I could do a book, but yeah, probably not. Not a book, just a video series. And I need to get back on that. I've been trying to focus on some of these instruments that have been sitting here forever, trying to get that done. Yeah, if I was 3 or 4 people, it'd be no problem. Let's see here. They're scrolled up on me, and I think I missed 1 or 2. Do I have an MR Marlowe Notes something? Mr. Low Notes. There you go. He's asking, do I have an opinion on Fender mandolins? Well, I haven't played that many of them. The few I've played, I'll be honest, you're asking, and I hate to lie to you, but the truth is I have not been very impressed with the ones I've heard. Do I think they may have a good one out there? There may be some good ones out there, but I truly haven't heard anything that I thought was very good. Now, it depends on whether you're talking, electric or acoustic. I mean, I'm sure, I think the ones that I remember seeing, I think they were both. I think they were electric acoustic, and they were not that impressive. Now, I didn't have them plugged in, so maybe plugged in, they're fine. I really don't know. So you're kind of asking me about something I'm not really up on, to be honest. So take my feedback with a grain of salt. You probably have to play your own. And to be honest, on a mandolin, you pretty much got to play them to know what you're getting anyway, for the most part. It doesn't even really matter what brand it is. Most mandolins, you pretty much got to play to decide whether you like them or not. They're pretty, I don't know, it's hard to explain it. To me, most, your average Martin guitar is going to be pretty good. Your average mandolin, not necessarily all the time. I mean, I don't know how to explain that, but unless you buy a Rosa, those are all the same. Well, I feel like they are, actually. I really do feel like they're pretty close to the same. Okay, moving on to the next thing. I'm sorry I can't give you better information on the Fender, but the ones I've heard, I've really not been very impressed with. But then again, I haven't heard that many of them either. Okay, I answered the one about the book. I don't plan to do a book. David Tharp, would you explain how you mix hide glue with epoxy for attaching extra pick guards? Oh, David, just shut up. You big jerk. You just tried to get me going. I know it. Matt says we need more likes. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. Hello from Ireland there, Kevin O'Malley. And I'm just reading down here. Fuller Dent Repair. How do you tie the strap on an A model? Thanks, Jerry. Well, most people do tie those around the peg head there, just on the other side of the nut. I don't really like that. If you have the option to put a strap button down there on the heel, I would recommend you do that. It's probably perfectly fine to tie it around the peg head, but I would, if it was my preference and I had the ability to put a pin on the neck heel, I would do that. For instance, I would put it somewhere about right here. Pretend this is an A model, doesn't have this. I'd put it somewhere about right here where your strap wraps around that a little bit and hangs onto it in here. And then, you hang it over the one shoulder, or if you like me, I put it over my neck and shoulder. I can't do the one shoulder thing. My shoulders are too sloped off and I can't keep them up. They don't, they just hang. So there you go. I have to do over the neck. But anyway, I would attach it there if you can. Some mandolins, there's a lot of differences in the way things are made, and some things you just can't do. It doesn't make sense to do it. Zappa says, the eye gauging calipers are excellent and relatively inexpensive. They are really, I think they're reasonable price. I think we're in the neighborhood of $50 or something like that, which might first sound really expensive. But when you figure the kind of work you can do with it and rely on it, it's well worth it to me. I use it all the time, and it was worth every penny to me. The next question I see here says, Charlie Bryson, what would be a good beginner mandolin? Well, you have to define the price range, I guess. But, if you can afford the Eastman line of mandolins, I think they're about as good as it gets for the off-the-shelf mandolins. And even those, you're going to have to play them probably. I realize that in this modern world where we're ordering everything online, you can't play them all the time. But if I was going to buy one knowing I couldn't play it, So far, every Eastman I've seen, I've thought they were pretty decent, really. I mean, I thought they were, all of them, every one of them. I can't honestly say that about very many other brands. I mean, like the lower, most of those are pretty good. But I have had a couple of the lowers in that I thought, well, it's kind of okay, you know. Most of them are pretty good, though. So I would go with the Eastman as my first choice if you can get it, and the lower maybe as your second choice. And I think you can get them, you can definitely get them under $1,000. You know, whether that's in your price range or not, I'm not too sure. But you're better off buying a little better instrument than you perhaps want or need. And most of the time, you can get most of your money back when you sell it anyway. So, you know, if in other words, if it doesn't work out, you can't really, you decide you're not a mandolin player. Like I have pretty much decided I'm not a fiddle player. I'm really not much of a musician, period, really. I can kind of beat on a mandolin. That's about all I can do. Let's see here. So that's my best answer for the mandolin thing, I think. Now, man, this thing just flashed. I hope it doesn't, electric didn't go off here. Never had it flash before. So anyway, Charlie, that's probably my best answer on a good beginner mandolin. Paul Walton, I like the burst color of your last mandolin. Was that using dark brown Phoebings for the dark color? Yes, it was. It was using the dark brown and the yellow, and then a lot of alcohol to blend them for the most part. That was mostly what it was. I don't remember using too many other colors on it. I think that was it. Mr. Low Note says, what's the luthier elixir you're sipping? Okay. Don't know what you mean by that. Maybe he didn't like my answer to his last question. I don't know. He's asking me my opinion on the Fender mandolins, and now he's asking me, he thinks I'm sipping on something. So either you didn't like my answer or whatever. I don't know. All I can tell you is Fender mandolins haven't been that great, in my opinion, on any of them I've tried. You asked for an answer, and I gave it to you, and that's an honest answer. What's in my cup? Water. Just plain old water. So I guess that's what he was asking. Here I was more or less taking offense that he thought I was answering his question wrong. But he's actually asking what was in my cup. And it's just plain water. I hit on one of those water filters. I didn't know if that would work or not, but those, now I can't think of the name of it. It's me and names again. But one of those gravity-fed water filters that are slow, it sits on your counter type thing and feeds it through. It's kind of slow. The filters are zero water. There you go, zero water. That's what I have. And we just keep it in the refrigerator, and we actually fill it inside the refrigerator and everything, and so it stays chilled. And then this insulated cup, it stays chilled. And we filter, like our well water, I think our well water is excellent here. I mean, I really do think it's really good water. It doesn't have much of a taste at all. It doesn't really leave much of a ring or stain on your toilets and things like most well water does. It does leave a little bit, but very little, I think. In fact, almost nothing. And so I thought, well, our well water will probably test really good. So I tested it, and it was like 600 parts per billion or million or whatever that zero water tester thing says. Yeah, I thought this thing might be a gimmick, I thought it might just say only its water is zero water, So I tested bottled water and came out zero. I tested the water that went through our filter. I mean, I put our well water through the filter, and it tested zero also. So, yeah, so the zero water filter does seem to work. But I'm really fine with drinking our own well water here. It seems perfectly okay to me. Been drinking it since '98. Hadn't hardly affected me at all. Mr. Low Notes, thought it might be magic luthier water from your spring. Yeah, well, it is kind of from my spring. That's pretty much what it is. Danny Fisher, do you all have more shop concerts coming up? Well, I was thinking it would be kind of nice if we could just do maybe one once per month or something like that, but we haven't really discussed it too much yet. We have fun doing that. It's kind of fun, to get the feedback and stuff from you guys, and we enjoy playing live, of course, when we do play live around here, but not so often anymore like we used to, especially since the COVID thing. It's kind of dried up everywhere. Rick Curtis says he appreciates sharing the knowledge and everything. We're just about out of time. Does anyone have any more questions or anything else that you would like to ask? It doesn't necessarily have to be about music. It can be about anything. I will say again, I seriously think that you should check out the kidney video. Especially if you've ever had stones, you will be amazed. At least it works for me. I've done it. I can't even tell you how many times I've done it now. Before I put the video out, I did it about a half dozen times, and it worked every one of those times. And since then, I've probably had at least another half dozen stones, and it's worked every single time like that. It's almost like flipping a switch. The kidney pain just goes away almost instantly. To me, it's like a miracle. So check it out if you have that problem or know someone who does. Let's see here. I saw some scroll up, so there may be another question or two. Danny Fisher went on to say, do you know Homer Ledford? He was a pretty well-known luthier here in Winchester, Kentucky. No, I don't think so. Homer, no, I don't think so. I can't say that I do. Rudd asks again, could it work for you made a vertical laminated top instead of normal horizontal? I don't follow you there, Rudd. I'm sorry. Could it work if you made a vertical laminated top instead of a normal horizontal? I don't know. I don't know if I understand your full question there on that one. If you're talking about gluing fine pieces of wood across for the top, depending on the kinds of wood you used, you could probably make a decent sounding top that way if that's what you're asking. I don't think I'd go to that much trouble if it were me, but I think you could do that if that's what you're asking. Bruce Ducker says 536 is the video on the kidney thing, I guess. So there you go, 536. But I really have had some pretty good feedback on that, and we might be onto something. And I figured that at least the little exercise that I'm doing there, I don't think it'll hurt you. So you could try it, and it may work for you too. And if it does, be sure to call it the Rosa Maneuver. I might as well get some credit somewhere, don't you think? Because I came up with it on my own. Nobody told me to do it. I just did it on my own. D. Davis, what is your opinion of Takamine? I see very few in your shop. I don't get that many of those. I've worked on a few over the years. I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 over the years. I really don't remember how many I've worked on. I do have at least one video on one. I'm sure I can remember that. Do I have much of an opinion on them? Not too much. They seem like a pretty decent guitar. I don't think I remember anything negative about them or anything like that. You have to remember how much comes through here, and it just kind of, I don't think about it from the standpoint of the same way that you guys might. Or, you know, me, it's just, you know, I'm in the trench and I'm fighting a war, you know, and I just want to get it, you know, do the triage and get it out of here as quick as I can, you know, and that's kind of the way my mindset is. So I don't think about too much of that stuff unless it stands out one way or the other. If it's really super good, I'll remember it. If it's really super bad, I'll remember it. But the middle of the road stuff, it just kind of goes right on through. And as far as I can tell, the Takamine is a fine instrument. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So, but that's about all I can actually honestly comment on it, because I just don't keep all that stuff in my head. Scott Freeman there. Now, it doesn't have a lot of question marks in front of it, but I noticed he had a question mark there somewhere. Or maybe I didn't. I just saw the word "what." He says, what's the tone properties of the Antler mandolin bridges? Well, you know, I think if you ask a dozen people, you probably get a dozen answers, but I don't make a ton of claims on the Antler. I truly stick by just a couple of claims. One of them is that you'll get more volume. You're going to get more volume with the Antler. And my other claim is it doesn't affect the tone very much, I don't think. The other thing is, in other words, it doesn't make it better, doesn't make it worse. It's kind of just gives you more volume of what you have. And then the other thing I say that's an absolute black and white claim is that you'll quit breaking strings if you're a string breaker. If you break strings at your bridge, you'll quit breaking strings. Ask me how I know that one. Yeah. So those are the claims I make. Now, there are lots of other people that tell me they love the sound of it, that it helped their sound a lot. My claim is that it just makes it louder because, you know, if you have a thin, tinny sounding mandolin, typically you get a lot more of that. If you got a good woody sounding instrument, man, then you're going to love it because it's going to just bring it out that much more. So that's my only claim. I'm not going to say that it makes it sound better or worse or anything. It's just louder. Steve Smith, I don't think I missed any here. What's your opinion of Yamaha guitars? I'd have to say that Yamaha is I have had quite a few of those in here. The Yamaha Red Label guitars, I think they sound just about as good as any guitars out there. I mean, I think they're great. Of the newer Yamahas, I can't say I've had many of them in here because you got to remember I'm a repair shop, so if they aren't broke, they're not coming through here. And so I can't honestly say anything about the newer ones. I try to give you as honest answers as I can. Zappa says that the Takamine is 224 and 232. So those were quite a while ago, but they were here, and that's the reason I don't remember. They were quite a while ago. Now, you keep in mind, that was, you know, a few hundred videos ago. Yeah, just think of how many other instruments have been through here that didn't get videoed, and the electric just went off again. This is not pretty here. Oh well, we are at the end. We were already 3 minutes past the hour, so that looks like the last question. Have you looked at solar panels to help with your furnace? Don't know. Yeah, I do have some solar here on the farm, powering an outbuilding or two. I had it powering a tower that I was getting my internet service off of at one time, so I know about solar. I'm actually fairly up on it. But where my house is, for one thing, I can tell you, you're wasting your time with solar because it's back set down in a deep valley, huge trees up over it. The whole thing is shaded most of the day. So you'd have to run your cables a long way and then you lose the efficiency and it would be crazy expensive. So now I really don't think solar's much of an option for me. Have I considered selling Antler blanks for guitars? Yes, many times, but I just don't want to deal with it, honestly. That's just the bottom line. Some people would say, well, you should because you'll make a ton of money. Money is not my motivator. I think most of you know that by now. Money is not. If money was my motivator, the world's finest mandolin ever built by a human would already be gone, because I turned down a chunk of change for that. A huge chunk of change that I should have my head examined. I realize that I should have sold it, but no, I didn't want to sell it. Because that's not what money is almost nothing to me. I mean, I know it sounds silly to some of you to say that, but it's almost nothing to me. Last question. There's two last questions. Then we're gonna get off here. Dave Burton says, just found a Laurel bass guitar at a yard sale. Do you have any information on these? No, I don't think so at all, honestly. Now, Laurel sounds vaguely familiar. Probably something's passed through here that had that name on it, over the years, but I don't remember anything specifically, so sorry. Joseph O'Brien, Tara, Ireland, would Beech make a good guitar neck? Well, I have to be truthful on that. I don't know that much about beech. If it's a hardwood and you get it quarter sawn, and it's dried properly, and that's the biggest thing right there, is if it's dried properly, it would probably be just fine for a neck. It might, but I'd have to do my tap tests and all that stuff on it to know whether I would use it or not. Okay, and then Danny, real quick last one says, how do I feel about Epiphone mandolins? And I got to be honest on that again. I haven't heard that many of them to begin with, and the few I've heard, they didn't leave any big favorable impression. So, not overly impressed with those either. The only ones that are mass produced, that are on the economical scale,